Hi, Dr. Keith here. Welcome you world champion new life boxers. Sooner or later, if you haven't got it already, it will arrive in the post. It's a box. It's a kit, really, containing lots of interesting things that we're going to use. I'm going to share those with you now. But I think it's very important that you do understand this is not just a box of books and you go away and read the books. This is a learning program and I want to interact with you most seriously. I'm looking for a lot of feedback, a lot of questions. I want Q&A time to be a time when you ask intelligent questions so that I know where your interest and where your focus is. And also, this is very important, we've got to be able to work out how best to deliver these materials. You see, it's all very well, you say, reading an interesting pamphlet or a book and you say, yes, a very good idea. But then you have to do something with this information. By the laws of Supernoetics, you have to sort of bring it in to your own, we call it embodiment learning, where you make this knowledge part of the structure of self. Otherwise, it's just like school learning and education. You just have a bunch of facts. So what? We're not interested in that kind of learning. We want the knowledge that builds, knowledge for application, useful knowledge. And this entire course, in fact all of Supernoetics, is built around that. So you need have no doubt that that's what's in mind and that's what's inherent in the materials. So you have to find yourself doing it. I was having lunch with a very dear friend a few weeks ago in England, and the subject came up of Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. She didn't know, and I pointed out to her that Napoleon Hill ended up stony broke despite writing this book. I think it suggests there's something wrong. There is. You can't just think about getting rich and believe it's going to happen. You have to do something. So my friend said maybe it should be retitled Get Busy and Grow Rich. And she's right on the button, because without that, nothing whatsoever is going to happen. Okay, so what's in this box of goodies? Well, let me deal with some of the light stuff. First of all, here is a postcard. This is a bit of fun, something you're going to write to yourself. When you've acquired sufficient knowledge, or maybe if you've learned a lot in life, you can do it now. You write this postcard to your 20-year-old self and tell him or her what is the single most important truth about life and living that you've learned over the years that will make all the difference, okay? Now, in one of the books, there's a section called Give Yourself Permission to Say No. There's a little card here where you write down all the things that you want to say no to, and you make this your little watch pad. A lot of people, especially women, I have to say, find themselves giving into things they don't really want to do. Well, I'm supposed to do the cooking, I'm supposed to do the laundry and so on, but I really want to go out and play tennis, or I want to go gardening. That's what really warms my heart. I love to garden, and I want to say no to distractions to gardening. It's a very important principle in life to give yourself permission to say no. Because if you keep saying yes, it's stress, it's extra stress, it's things you don't want, it's distractions from what you do want. So that's one of the skills I want you to learn. Say no. If somebody wants to make a quarrel out of it, that's their problem, not you. But you don't have to say no in a nasty way. Just say, no, I'm sorry. I've made myself a new rule, and every Monday I'm spending time on my own in the garden, and I'm afraid I'm just not available. Thank you very much for asking. Okay? You've got to be serious like that. Now, one of the key pieces that comes in this box is what we call the Toolbox. Now, some of you may have seen my Life and Living Toolbook. It's based on that, but it's actually rather different. It's restructured in a way that a person reading the book from the chapter 1 onwards would find themselves unfolding a kind of desirable life. What is it you want? What do you really, really want? And so on. And what is it going to take to get that? How do you get there? Brainstorming, planning, and so on. So the book has a little bit of a different emphasis, but it's still a crucial tool book. And it's full of good things like the 12 channels of being, what we call the constellation of a chord, how the anatomy of relationships, if you like. But it's full of some really cool stuff like the 4 magic questions, what we call private soliloquy. That's what you can tell yourself in private to the bathroom mirror. Just say it to yourself, and it's only for yourself, to yourself. But, you know, psychologically it's very powerful, and there have been studies and tests to show that. And it's not just what you say that works, it's what you hear from that figure in the mirror that works. So you can say, "You're a wonderful guy, my God, you're handsome," and saying it doesn't move you nearly as much as a figure in the mirror saying, "You know, you're a wonderful guy, my God, you're handsome," because it's another person, kind of. And it works like that anyway, so it's nice to have someone validating and acknowledging you. Okay, so this is the kind of meat and potatoes, the biggest segment of what's in the box. But there are other things too here. We've got a rewrite or rerun of Peter Shepard's, it's called Being Positive, that's right, Positive Approach. So there are 30 hacks to create a more positive view of life. I'll be going into those with you with some classes during the teaching. We've got a booklet called Closeness in Love. There's a series of videos to go with this. I think apart from, you know, putting a roof over your head and being able to pay your bills, the number one stress, which is the number one stress in life, apart from that, the number one stress, or the number two stress if you like, is relationships. Wanting to love and be loved and wanting to express ourselves through a relationship. This amazing book by my friend Jerry, well, I can't use his name, he doesn't want his name used. He feels he came by these gifts through a blessing and they're not his, he's sharing them, but he's not the kind of acknowledged author and so on. But anyway, in here, my friend has put a wonderful process that he calls Healing the Me I See in You. And if you've got any smarts at all, or kept your eyes and ears open in life, you'll realize that most of what people complain about in their partner or spouse or lover is actually things they're creating. You know, the person's doing it and then moaning about it. You know, my wife never talks to me. Yes, but what are you doing that's stopping your wife talking to you? Why is she not open and outgoing with you? The answer is you're doing something to create that. Maybe she's frightened of talking to you, or frightened of your emotional reactions and so on. Anyway, there's lots and lots of good stuff to dive into with this book, and we look forward. By the way, there is also what we call a workbook, meaning, you know, it gives you sections on what to do, you know, write down 10 reasons why, and so on, those kind of things. These exercises will reinforce what you're learning. It's the sort of first step in action or applying it, and relates to all the other books and materials that you've got. There's a marvelous gratitude log for you, and I want you to go for this early on, if not today, as soon as you open the box. It's really find 3, 4 or 5 things to be grateful for every day. Now, I know that sounds a bit kind of kitschy and new age and, you know, but in fact, there's wonderful science showing that gratitude is one of the most powerful ways of altering mood and how you see life. It's not that illogical, but it takes studies, and people like Martin Seligman, by the way, who was kind of invented invented would be the wrong word because I was writing about it before he was, but he came up with the term which has stuck, positive psychology. In other words, instead of looking at people's troubles and woes and calling that psychology or psychiatry maybe, you look at what's right about people, what's good, what's positive, what will help a person towards something better. And of course the whole of the New Life in a Box project is all about that. But gratitude has been found to be probably the number one and the main and almost the only mechanism that really nails in place the feeling of happiness. Now it makes sense. I'm going to talk about this, by the way, at length. There'll be a whole video just on using this book. But it makes sense if you think about it. If you take the trouble, instead of moaning about woes and problems and miseries, and I don't like this and that happened to me and wasn't that bad, she's a bitch, why not look at the positive? Well, that was wonderful, and I had this wonderful experience. Oh my God, that was so wonderful today. And so on. Just take a little time to feed back to yourself, positive feedback, and guess what? You feel better about yourself. I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it, really? Now, I've got here a piece on changing your real IQ. Your real IQ is something I've redefined. Well, in fact, I call it adaptive IQ. It's my own expression or my own term, if you like, and it's one we use recurringly throughout Supernoetics. It's IQ in terms of application and how you work it out in your life. Academic IQ is really just that. It's academic. And in fact, some wit said that the The only thing IQ tests measure is the ability to take IQ tests. And I'm sure you get the joke. But we're not interested in that kind of IQ. We're interested in how you apply intelligence to life. And you measure that person's IQ, real IQ as I call it, with things like how successful are the relationships? Is the person happy? Have they reached the kind of prosperity and attainment that they wanted to achieve? Are they making an impact in life? Are they succeeding in the world? One of the 12 channels of being that I call Your Place in the World, Channel 5. Are you making it? Is there any point in you being here, or will the world be a better place because you've lived? I hope so. So that's all about that, and there is a real IQ test that you can download. We'll help you grade and mark, and we have one or two skilled people who can interpret for you what it means. Now, one other little booklet to call your attention to is that food allergy spoiling your life. You'll know I've written a pretty meaty book on food. Well, I've written several books on allergies and food allergies. That's how I made my international name in the 1980s and 90s. But this is just a little shortened piece from an essay, in fact, written by my colleague Ted Hamlin. And that was his title, so I've adopted it. Ted is now demised, he's no longer with us. But basically, the reason this is in the box is because a lot of people are struggling with issues in life and they don't realize it's something about their diet. Now, I don't mean they're eating junk food or, they're not taking enough nutrients and supplements. All of that is true for modern man, by the way. But it's that food, and food allergy in particular, can have a direct and crushing impact on your life and how you see your life and how you respond to it, your emotions, your cognitive processes, and sometimes a person's eating a food that really just basically turns that person's mind to mush, if you like. We have the expression brain fog or woolly brain syndrome. Whenever I use that term, anyone who's got a woolly brain knows what I'm talking about instantly. Oh yes, a very clever person, maybe a captain of industry or a professor, but who can't remember simple details like their own phone number. They're foggy or confused, or they seem to see things from behind a perspex screen. All that can be cleared if you change your diet and you do indeed have food allergies. Get rid of them and you won't believe the difference. You can feel 10 or 15 years younger, bright, alert, brilliant, on the ball. I've heard all these things tens of thousands of times from people that I've taken through the program. So I thought it would be a great disservice not to at least expose people to this material on my new life in a box. It might be the single most significant change that you want to make. And of course there is a table of contents. Those are the things that you find in the box. The last booklet, because I haven't mentioned it, Honor Your Decisions. And we're going to be brainstorming decisions, because although the popular perception is that beliefs shape your life, it's like, well, obviously, yes, but no, it's not obvious, and it's not actually really true. It's decisions that shape your life. If you decide to go and emigrate to Australia, that's had a huge impact on your life, whatever you believe. And maybe you didn't change your belief. Maybe you believed life was no good in USA or England or France. It was you weren't getting on, life was miserable, you were never going to get what you wanted, so you moved to Australia. So the belief haven't changed, but the decision to move is what shaped the person's life. Now, I'll accept that most decisions are created by beliefs, but not all. Think it through. Let's do a thought experiment. If you believe something can't or something will happen, but you don't take any action, then of course it won't happen. But even if you believe this thing could never happen to you, but you took the decision to make the change, and trust me, this has happened to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, that despite everything they believe and everything against it and why it couldn't work, the person said, well, I'm going to do it anyway. And that decision led to them finding a whole new life. And really, that's what this new life in a box is about. If you can share with me this learning and understanding, and you can be responsible for your decisions, the most important decision you have to make right now is that you're going to change things for the better. Whatever the weaknesses in your life up to this point, you're now invited to join a program that was said, that's the past. Let's create a whole new life that is much more like the one that you want to live. That's what the program's about, and thank you very much for joining me. I'm very glad to have you on board. Take care.